In 1993, they passed the Guardianship Administration Act, and that includes in it a document called an enduring power of guardianship. And that document enables a person to appoint someone to make medical and lifestyle decisions for them after they lose mental capacity. Now, I emphasised to you before that everyone has a right to personal autonomy. You've got a right to make all your own decisions for yourself until such time as you lose that mental capacity. And that might be temporarily or it might be permanently. But the enduring power of guardianship provides that if I lose my mental capacity to be able to receive information, process it and make an informed decision, then I want somebody else to make those decisions for me. And that document appoints one person, or can be a number of people, to jointly make those decisions for you. Now, it might be that you would appoint somebody, say a son, because he can add up as your attorney, but you might not want your son to make healthcare and lifestyle decisions for you, and that might be your daughter or another son, or it could be the same person. Or you might want all the children to do it. But if the children don't get on, don't appoint them all, because that's the recipe for disaster. And they're the sorts of cases that I used to end up getting, where the families couldn't agree, and then I would have to be appointed to then make the decisions. So instead of them hating each other's guts, they hated mine. But many patients, when they go into nursing homes, have already passed the stage of having sufficient capacity to sign a power of attorney, or sign a power of guardianship, or sign a medical power of attorney. Many families leave those issues until the last minute, and suddenly, you know, the doctor and therapists and what have you have said, look, they can't live on their own anymore. They've got to go into supported accommodation, and then you go to admit the people into supported accommodation, and the people doing the admissions say we won't take them unless they've got a power of attorney and they've got a power of guardianship. Well, it's usually too late at that stage, and if you haven't executed those documents, you can't execute them then, and that would result in you probably having to go to the guardianship board and having an administrator appointed after a hearing to look after finances, and a guardian appointed to make healthcare decisions. Now, and that's a trauma that the families don't want to go through.
One of the groups in society, I think, that can play a very valuable role in reducing the costs ultimately and ensuring at the same time a better standard of care in people's homes, has got to be the nursing profession. The reality is that we have had a very high level of acute care services which come with a significant level of cost. They do, of course, provide a high standard of care, but what many people expect at this end of their life is to have care in the home. Many people say to me that they want to die at home, and I think that's a common understanding. Some people, of course, can't because of the nature of the medical condition, but many can. And the nursing profession has a big opportunity here, I think, to assist people in that expectation. Nurses can, of course, provide care at home and can deliver that service. So if we can do anything to ensure that nurses, with their qualifications, with their skills, with their compassion, can work with people in a palliative care context at home, alongside the medical profession, delivering that care on often a 24-hour basis at home at the end of life, then I think we will have helped to deliver an improved standard of care alongside an improved level of compassion and understanding of what most people want at that end of their life. Unfortunately, our society has never really had a very good level of conversation about death and dying. It's something we've always tended to shy away from in our community. That's understandable, but the reality is it's something we need to talk about. And while Parliament can put in place legislation which empowers people, as we have done in South Australia, we've always been at the leading edge of this. The reality is that unless the guardians and the medical attorneys and the people within your family who are going to execute those powers at the end of life actually understand what the people want at that time frame, then it's not going to be effective. You can have all the laws you like, but if we don't understand what people want, if we haven't had that conversation and we don't know the philosophy that you have about the end of life, then it doesn't really matter what the law is, because the wishes won't be communicated, they won't be understood. One of the most important things in this process, I think, is to work out what you really want for yourself. You can't really have the conversation with the family if you haven't decided for yourself what you would want at the end of your own life, if you haven't decided your own philosophy, if you haven't decided the process that you would like at the end of your own life, then it's very hard to have that conversation with members of your family or the friends you would want to appoint as your guardians in this context. So really you have to have the conversation with yourself first before you can have that conversation with anyone else. So it's important first to sit down with yourself, have a quiet private moment with yourself and work out your own philosophy of this process. Not an easy thing, but at the end of the day it probably is the most important aspect of the process. Then you'll have the courage and the understanding to talk to others in the family. Families have a very good opportunity in South Australia, I think, to work within themselves and to understand the options that we do give them. And although not every family will need to take up those options, they are there for you. But when you do make use of the legal opportunities in South Australia through guardianship, through powers of attorney, through medical powers, and even if you don't have the formal powers in place, the most important thing, I think, is communication within our community, communication between families and within families, to ensure that when you talk to the doctor and when you talk to people who are providing medical treatment, palliative care, nursing care, even within the family when there is no health professional there, that you actually understand what each other want. That's the critical bit. If people are in a position where they're not able to communicate for themselves because of their medical condition, then it's critical that they've already talked to you, who are going to be providing that care and making those decisions for them about what they want done at that time in their life. At the most critical point when they can't communicate, that's when they already need to have done the communicating. That's the most important aspect, I think, that I would tell people. How you've made that communication step well in advance so that they already know what they need to know at that critical time. It doesn't have to be about specific facts, specific treatments. It needs to be about the kind of lifestyle that they would have liked at the end, the kind of treatments they would or would not have liked, and exactly what their philosophy is. Not about a treatment, not about a tablet, not about a medical decision, but about a philosophy of life and a philosophy of death.
Quality of life is very subjective, and what one person would see as a good death, another person maybe wouldn't see as a good death. And maybe fate has a part to play. Maybe we don't have a lot of conscious say in what does happen, but it does seem to be helpful to have the conversations and to let those around us know what we value and what we see would be most helpful during that transition period.